Imagine you sit down at a cafe, you look the server directly in the eye, and you ask for a chicken sandwich.
Okay, simple enough?
Right. And functionally, your grammar is flawless. You use the correct noun, the right verb, your pronunciation was, perfect, but culturally.
Oh, culturally, you might have just sounded like a demanding tyrant.
Exactly. And welcome to the English Boost podcast, by the way, because this is exactly what our exploration is about today.
Yeah, it's one of the most common and frankly most dangerous hidden traps in language learning.
Definitely.
We memorize these vocabulary lists
Yeah.
and we assume they map perfectly and cleanly onto reality. But food vocabulary is heavily coded.
It's so coded. We're looking at a whole stack of materials today dedicated to the language of food. And our mission isn't just to talk about, menu items.
Right, it's way deeper than that.
Yeah, it's about the intricate social mechanics of how we describe, order, reject, and share what we eat. I mean, we eat every single day.
We do.
So mastering the nuance here is arguably the most practical, high-stakes communication you will ever engage in.
Absolutely. The dining table, whether it's, your own kitchen or some busy restaurant, that's where relationships are forged. It's where boundaries are tested.
Yeah, cultural fluency is really demonstrated right there on the plate.
If you only know how to literally feed yourself, you're missing half the language.
So true. So let's start with the most primal aspect of eating, just our basic human instinct for what we love and what we absolutely hate.
The deal breakers.
The deal breakers, exactly, because you have to know how to express a boundary in a new language without offending whoever cooked the meal.
Right, which is an art form.
It is.
Yeah.
So the materials outline some very distinct preferences. On the positive side, there's this deep appreciation for Italian food, specifically the richness of pizza loaded with cheese and fresh basil.
Oh, yeah, can't go wrong there.
And sushi, too, which is praised for feeling light, using, fresh fish and clean rice.
The contrast there is important, actually. You have the heavy, comforting profile of the pizza set against that clean, lean profile of the sushi.
Yeah, totally different experiences.
But the linguistic challenge doesn't really lie in praising food. It's super easy to make friends when you tell someone their food is delicious.
Right. Nobody gets mad at a compliment.
Exactly. The real test of fluency is how you handle your aversions, what you don't like.
Okay, so let's get into the dislikes. The notes highlight a really strong aversion to having too much wasabi.
Oh, I get that.
Yeah, specifically because of the intense physical sensation. Like, it makes the nose feel funny.
It burns.
It does. And there's also a distinct dislike for mushrooms, largely due to their strange, rubbery texture. And then, of course, a somewhat familiar debate over the merits of broccoli.
Texture is such a fascinating reason to reject a food, linguistically speaking, because it moves the complaint away from the flavor and directly into the physical experience in the mouth.
It's like it feels wrong.
Right. But the mechanism of how these rejections are communicated, that is where the cultural nuance really lies.
Yeah, and this is where I noticed a very specific phrasing technique in the sources. There's this sharp contrast drawn between saying, I don't like mushrooms, and saying, I don't really like mushrooms.
Just adding that one word.
Just adding the word really. It seems to act as like a linguistic shock absorber.
A shock absorber. I love that. That is a highly accurate way to visualize it. Because directness in many English-speaking cultures, particularly around hospitality, it can register as an aggressive rejection.
Oh, definitely.
When someone offers you food, they are theoretically offering you care.
So if someone proudly presents this beautiful mushroom dish and you just say, I don't like mushrooms,
It's brutal.
you aren't just rejecting the fungus, you are throwing up a brick wall against their hospitality.
Exactly the issue. It halts the conversation entirely. But by inserting that word, really, I don't really like mushrooms, you introduce this tiny degree of ambiguity.
Just enough to soften the blow.
Right. You are signaling that it isn't an absolute hostile refusal, but rather just a gentle preference. It preserves the host's feelings, gives them an out, and it manages the social friction.
And you don't have to eat something that grosses you out.
Exactly. Win-win.
So it turns a blunt rejection into a polite conversational pivot. You save yourself from the strange textured mushrooms, and you save the dinner party from an awkward silence.
And this management of social friction, it gets even more complex when we move from the private dining room to a public setting.
Like a restaurant.
Yeah. The transition into commercial transactions completely shifts the power dynamic.
Let's explore that public dynamic, actually. The materials walk through this highly relatable cafe role play.
Oh, the ordering scenario.
Yeah. The order itself is pretty standard. A cold bottle of water, a glass of orange juice, a chicken sandwich with a very strict no mayonnaise modification.
Essential modification for some people.
Right, and a side salad instead of fries, just to keep things a bit healthier.
The nutritional choices are common, but the structural mechanics of how that order is placed, that's where learners often stumble.
Because the core conflict here is the difference between saying, I would like, or can I have, versus simply saying, I want.
Yes.
Now, I have to push back on this a bit, or challenge it.
Okay, go for it.
If I'm at a fast food drive-thru at midnight, and I say, I want a burger, the transaction happens smoothly. Nobody yells at me. Why does I want sound so abrasive in a standard cafe setting? I mean, functionally, I'm paying for a service. I do want the sandwich.
Well, you do want it, and you are paying for it, that's true. But the English language requires us to participate in a polite fiction.
A polite fiction.
Yeah. While the drive-thru is purely transactional, it prioritizes speed over everything a sit-down cafe or restaurant relies on the illusion of a host-guest relationship.
So we're basically pretending that the server is just a very generous friend who happens to be bringing us a chicken sandwich.
In a sense, yes. And when you use I want, you strip away that illusion completely.
Ah, I see.
You expose the raw commercial reality of the interaction. And in English, that comes across as demanding or even childlike. It asserts dominance.
Which is uncomfortable.
Highly uncomfortable. However, when you use I would like, you're employing a conditional tense. You are softly suggesting a desire rather than issuing a command.
So it's softening the blow again, kind of like the word really from earlier.
It operates on the exact same principle. I would like, or could I have. It frames the request as an inquiry into the server's willingness to help.
Oh, rather than a demand for their labor?
Precisely. It shows respect for the server, which elevates the entire interaction. It's really the ultimate safe bet for maintaining a civilized, respectful demeanor in customer service.
It acts as a shield against sounding arrogant. Okay, so you've successfully navigated the social minefield of ordering. The waiter smiles, the food finally arrives.
Now you have to eat it.
Right, and once it's on the table, we face the next challenge, reacting to it. And relying on the word good to describe your meal seems to be a major trap for learners.
Good is a conversational dead end.
Why is that?
Well, it confirms that the food is acceptable and edible, but it transfers absolutely zero sensory data to the people you are dining with.
That makes sense. We have to move into specific adjectives. The notes actually provide a spectrum of positive descriptors. Words like sweet, tasty, amazing, and delicious.
That's better than good.
Yeah. But it also highlights the critical importance of warning phrases. Like, if you are sharing a meal, you need the vocabulary to say, careful, this soup is very hot.
You don't want anyone burning their tongue.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or if you're praising a beverage on a sweltering hot day, describing it as nice and cold.
Those functional descriptions are totally necessary. But the true descriptive power comes when you're dealing with the extremes of sensation.
The extremes are where the meals actually get memorable. Like food that is too salty. We've all been there, right?
Oh, yes.
When a dish is so aggressively salted that you're just forced to sit there chugging glass after glass of water just to recover your palate.
Yeah, the physical reaction dictates the vocabulary there.
Right.
But consider the exact opposite of that sensory overload.
Okay.
The materials use the example of plain white rice.
Yeah.
Served with absolutely no spice, no salt, nothing on it.
Just sad rice.
Right. And the word for this is bland.
Yes. Bland is such a crucial milestone word for language learners, particularly around like the B1 level.
It really is.
Because so often when someone is trying to describe unseasoned food, they get stuck using negative constructions.
Like what?
They'll say, it has no taste, or it's not spicy, or simply, it is not good.
Which is linguistically really inefficient.
Yeah.
What makes bland so powerful is that it replaces the absence of a description with a specific, tangible quality.
Oh, I like that.
You aren't just saying what the food lacks, you're describing the actual texture of emptiness.
Yeah.
Precision in communication invites the listener into your sensory experience.
Wow, texture of emptiness.
Yeah, like when someone describes plain rice as bland, I can immediately simulate that dull, starchy feeling in my own mouth.
You are painting a sensory picture in their mind, which just makes the shared experience of the meal much richer.
Exactly.
But, dining out is only half the equation. Some of the most creative vocabulary comes into play when we move the operation into the home kitchen.
The kitchen is essentially a laboratory where we get to consume our own experiments.
It is. It's a highly practical laboratory. And the routines we establish there reflect entirely different modes of living. Like, the contrast in daily routines is really stark in these notes.
How so?
Well, on a typical weekday, the breakfast process is purely utilitarian. You grab some eggs, a piece of bread, and a massive cup of black coffee because you are just rushing out the door and you need the caffeine to wake your brain up.
Right, it's just fuel at that point.
Yeah.
And the vocabulary surrounding that kind of meal is quick, functional, and largely devoid of any romance.
But then the weekend hits, and it opens up entirely different culinary possibilities. The focus shifts to cooking complex meals.
You have time to experiment.
Exactly. The notes contrast a beginner-friendly pasta with tomato sauce, which is, reliable, hard to ruin, with the much more involved process of roasting a whole chicken with vegetables.
A classic Sunday dinner.
Yes. And the standout detail there is the amazing, rich smell of that roasted chicken slowly filling the entire house.
The olfactory vocabulary. So, words related to smell becomes just as vital as taste here. The aroma changes the environment of the home long before the food is actually plated.
And the cooking process itself sparks a very familiar debate, adherence to the rules versus trusting your intuition.
The recipe debate.
Right. Do you follow a recipe strictly, step by step, or do you just guess? The materials describe this sort of hybrid approach. You start with an established recipe, but then you deviate from it by throwing in extra health-boosting garlic and fresh herbs simply because, well, garlic makes everything better.
I mean, it does.
Yeah.
But it also represents a natural progression in any skill. You must first understand the foundational rules before you can successfully break them.
And I see a very direct parallel here to the process of language acquisition itself.
Oh.
Yeah, the journey from rigidly following a recipe to intuitively throwing in extra garlic, it mirrors how a confident learner should approach English.
Expand on that. How do the mechanics of cooking apply to grammar?
Okay, so when you first start learning, you have to follow the textbook strictly, right? That is your recipe. You memorize the exact phrases. Hello, how are you? I am fine.
Very mechanical.
Exactly. It's safe, but it's mechanical. However, to achieve real fluency, you have to start experimenting. You take a risk and throw in a new slang word you just heard, or you drop the word bland into a conversation, or you try out a complex conditional phrase.
You stop relying on the rigid recipe.
Right. You start actively cooking with the vocabulary.
That is a highly effective framework.
Okay.
If you only ever adhere to the prescriptive grammar rules, your communication will always be perfectly acceptable, but it'll likely remain pretty flat.
It's going to be bland.
Exactly, it'll lack personality.
It needs the linguistic equivalent of garlic.
It does. And the reality of experimenting, whether with garlic or with conditional verbs, is that sometimes the experiment will fail.
True.
You might use an idiom inappropriately, just as you might oversalt a sauce, but that trial and error is the only way to develop an intuitive feel for the mechanics of the language. You have to take ownership of the components.
Taking ownership of the components, that is a great way to put it. And all of this preparation inevitably leads to the actual consumption, right? The eating, the snacking, the hosting.
The best part.
Yes. But this phase requires a highly specific set of vocabulary to communicate exactly what our physical bodies need in a given moment.
Because navigating the social dynamics of hosting and being hosted requires an elevated level of finesse. You're constantly balancing your physical needs against social politeness.
And the materials provide some excellent phrases for this dance. If you are the host, you're offering. Would you like some more snacks?
Classic hosting.
But as a guest, you have to know how to decline without insulting the person who just spent hours cooking for you. So you might say, no thank you, I'm full, or I am satisfied.
Now, while both of those communicate that the meal is over, full is primarily focused on the physical volume in your stomach. It's standard for very casual settings.
Okay.
Satisfied, on the other hand, carries a slightly more formal, holistic weight. It implies contentment, basically signaling that the host has successfully fulfilled their duty.
Oh, that's a nice distinction. But our physical needs operate on a spectrum, don't they? What if you aren't completely full, but you aren't exactly starving either?
The in-between phase.
Right. What if it is 4:00 p.m. and you just have a very specific craving for a cup of tea and a biscuit?
The materials introduce a brilliant piece of vocabulary for this exact state. Feeling a little peckish.
Peckish. I love that word.
It's an incredibly precise descriptor. It isolates that minor, nagging desire for a small snack, cleanly separating it from the biological need for a full, heavy meal.
Yeah, and we see a similar spectrum with hydration too. You can simply be thirsty after a walk, but if you've been wandering around a new city under the blazing sun all day, the need becomes severe.
You're parched.
Parched, exactly. But here is where we hit what might be the most profound grammatical trap for language learners when discussing bodily needs.
The literal translation trap.
Yes. The crucial, persistent mistake is attempting to say, I have hunger.
Oh, it trips up learners from dozens of different linguistic backgrounds.
Because in so many languages, particularly Romance languages, you possess your hunger. It's a noun that belongs to you. I have hunger. I have thirst.
Right.
But in English, the rule is rigid. We say, I am hungry.
And this highlights a fundamental philosophical difference in how English constructs reality. English relies heavily on the verb to be to define states of existence.
Yeah.
We see the exact same structural logic applied to age, actually. In many languages, you possess your years. I have 20 years. In English, you exist as your age. I am 20 years old.
It is such a strange concept when you really break it down. Languages that used to have treat hunger like an item in your pocket.
Like your keys.
Exactly, as if you're carrying around your keys, your wallet, and your hunger.
But the English structure dictates that you do not possess the hunger. You embody it. It is a temporary, overwhelming condition of your actual existence. I am hungry. I am parched.
Wow.
It defines the total state of the subject in that precise moment. Understanding that conceptual shift, moving from possessing a feeling to embodying a state of being, that is a massive cognitive leap for anyone mastering the language.
You embody the state. That completely changes the perspective on how we communicate our needs.
Yeah.
And mastering these concepts, the polite conditionals, the sensory adjectives, the states of being, it ultimately serves a higher purpose.
These aren't just tools for basic sustenance.
Exactly. They are the building blocks of our best stories and our best memories around the table.
Because food is the ultimate universal experience, it's arguably the most reliable conversation starter we possess.
100%. And the materials we're reviewing share two brilliant anecdotes that prove this point perfectly.
Oh, stories, yes.
The first one involves a fancy birthday dinner. So the diner ordered what they assumed was a standard appetizer. But the waiter brought out this massive, beautifully designed plate.
Let me guess.
Featuring just one microscopically tiny piece of fish sitting right in the center.
The classic hazard of hot cuisine. The physical dimensions of the dish are inversely proportional to the price tag.
Exactly. And the punchline of the story is that the portion was so small, it left the diner completely ravenous. They had to immediately flag down the waiter and order an expensive, massive bowl of pasta just to survive the rest of the birthday celebration.
It's a highly relatable memory. But linguistically, the comedic timing of that story relies entirely on the speaker's ability to contrast the adjectives.
How do you mean?
Well, juxtaposing the giant plate with the tiny piece of fish to highlight the total absurdity of the situation. Without those specific adjectives, the joke falls flat.
That's a great point. Now, the second anecdote is a bit more dramatic.
The spicy challenge.
Yeah. It centers around a spicy food challenge. The diner eats a tremendously hot chicken wing. For the first few seconds, everything seems totally fine.
The calm before the storm.
Right. But 5 seconds later, the delayed reaction hits, and the diner's face turns completely red.
The hallmark of capsaicin. The chemical doesn't trigger the pain receptors instantly, which lures people into this false sense of security.
And the crucial detail of the story is the remedy. The diner has to chug an entire liter of milk because drinking water absolutely does not stop the burning sensation.
No, water merely spreads the capsaicin oils around the mouth, exacerbating the pain. You require the casein protein found in dairy to break those chemical bonds.
Science saves the day. And this is where the vocabulary becomes critical. This milk for spice tip isn't just a funny anecdote. It is literal survival advice for travelers. Imagine you're wandering through a vibrant night market in a foreign city. You eat a pepper that sets your nervous system on fire, and you only know the word for water.
You're in trouble.
Big trouble. Knowing the specific English word for milk in that moment transcends casual conversation. It acts as an emergency toolkit that can save you from intense physical agony.
It proves that mastering specific vocabulary is not merely an academic exercise. In moments of acute need, having the precise word is intensely practical.
Absolutely. So let's just trace the journey we have taken through our exploration today.
We covered a lot of ground.
We did. We began by learning how to soften our boundaries, using the word really as a linguistic shock absorber to decline food without offending our hosts.
A vital skill.
Then we unpacked the hidden power dynamics of the cafe, realizing that ordering with the conditional I would like instead of the demanding I want preserves that polite fiction of hospitality.
Keeping everyone happy.
Exactly. We moved past the dead-end word good, embracing precise sensory descriptors like bland to accurately paint a picture of our physical experiences.
The texture of emptiness.
Yes. We brought it into the kitchen, learning that true fluency means occasionally abandoning the strict recipe to throw in some experimental linguistic garlic.
Taking those risks.
And we discovered a profound structural truth. In English, you don't possess your hunger, you embody it. You are hungry, or perhaps just a little peckish for a 4 p.m. snack.
Right.
And finally, we saw how mastering these specific words allows us to share absurd birthday dinner stories or secure a life-saving liter of milk when a spicy chicken wing fights back.
The overarching theme here is that mastering these phrases equips you to do far more than just read a menu. It provides the nuanced tools required to navigate complex social hierarchies and build genuine connections.
When you tune into the English Boost podcast, you aren't just memorizing lists of nouns, you are decoding the culture. But before we wrap up today's show, I want to leave you, our listener, with one final, slightly provocative thought to consider the next time you find yourself looking at a menu in a second language.
Oh, I'm curious to hear it.
Well, we have established that your vocabulary dictates how precisely you can express your desires and manage social friction, right?
Yes.
But since our vocabulary limits how we can express those things, is it possible that a lack of specific food words actually changes the types of local cuisine you choose to experience or avoid when traveling?
Wow. That is a fascinating psychological question.
Think about your own habits. Are you sticking to the safe, boring restaurants with pictures on the menu simply because you lack the vocabulary to navigate the complex, rapid-fire interactions of a local street food market?
Are you playing it too safe?
Exactly. Are you letting your grammatical limitations dictate your diet? Don't let a missing word keep you stuck in your comfort zone, and definitely don't let a lack of nuance turn you into the demanding tyrant we discussed at the top of the show.
A brilliant challenge to leave them with. The world really opens up when the vocabulary...
It really does. Keep experimenting, keep throwing in that linguistic garlic, and we will catch you on our next exploration into the language.